travel bans to Canada, we have two separate travel bans. We have one that applies to everyone outside of the States, and then we have one especially for the States. So right now, in order to come to Canada, if you're coming from anywhere outside of the States, you have to present to the air carrier. So right now, it's a weird situation where it's not going to be an immigration officer who looks at who lets you in Canada in the first instance. The first instance, you actually have to get on the plane, which can be a little bit weird because oftentimes they're not trained officers, and you know, sometimes, for example, Air Canada agent may not be that attuned to the immigration laws. In general, if you're a Canadian or permanent resident in Canada, you can come. If you have family in Canada who are Canadians or permanent residents, you can come. And then if you have work permits or work permit approval, you can enter Canada. If you have a study permit or an approval that was approved before March 18th when the travel ban came into place, you can come, and COPRs can come. Now, family members of those who are temporary status in Canada, who have temporary status in Canada, it's not automatic that they can come, but they can ask for an exemption. I would first ask them, we would basically first submit an application to IRCC first, and then there will be, they can issue a letter, and then they can show the air carrier. We have in other exceptional circumstances as well to allow people to come into Canada, but they have to have a special exemption. Otherwise, you can't just beg the Air Canada agent to allow you to enter Canada. For travel bans from the US, it's similar, but it's also slightly different. For those people who are coming from the US, it's an essentials test, essential purpose. Okay, so I've listed some of the essential purposes there. So if you are coming to Canada to work, or you're coming to Canada to study, it's supposed to be non-discretionary. Now, here's the thing. When you're coming in from the States, the officers who are evaluating you are actually the CBSA officers, the customs officers at the border. Oftentimes, though, what they are interpreting is not necessarily what the law is. So, for example, family members of Canadians are supposed to be able to join their family in Canada. And I'm talking about immediate family, so spouses, parents, children, and guardians, etc. Okay? But if you are, for those people who are coming to join their families, sometimes they're still stopped at the border because the officer is saying, oh, well, that's not discretionary. Sorry, that is discretionary. You're just coming to visit. You don't need to be in Canada. So we have been getting a lot of conflicts with the officers at the border where they're saying, oh, well, it's not essential for you to come. Whereas, you know, we can argue that it is essential. So oftentimes with these kind of situations, it might also be good to also have a pre-approval beforehand, so that we can sort of facilitate that, okay? One of the things that is very important as well is flag polling. So before COVID, a lot of times we would send people to go to the border to apply for their work permits or study permits or to land for immigration, and we just basically send them to go to the US, make a U-turn, and come back to Canada. That's called flag polling. You're going around the flag. That is no longer allowed anymore at the border based on this travel ban. One of the things I wanted to mention before I move on is that people who are coming into Canada there's a requirement of 14 days where they are under quarantine and that they are not supposed to be, out and about. And employers who employ workers who are coming in from Canada, it's one of their duties to ensure that this happens. There are some exceptions for those people who are coming to Canada to do essential work, but that is, you have to get a special permission in order to be exempted. Okay. So we're also seeing a lot of different rules that are happening with especially students, because a lot of students right now, the classes are online. So it's been back and forth with immigration as to what's happening with online courses. If you do online courses for one semester, it should be okay. However, the thing with your postgrad work permits is that the normal situation is that it requires you to do less than 50% for your online courses. Whether or not the IRCC is willing to bend this rule because of COVID, it's still unclear. In the beginning, they tweeted that don't worry, if you have to go online. But we all know how tweets are. It's just like a Trump tweet. It doesn't really have, what does that mean? Don't worry, right? You can just, it's not gonna affect it. Because afterwards on the website, then it said that if it's still, you have to be under the 50%. So there has been some back and forth with that. If you need to attend classes and it's online, I would say go and attend classes. But afterwards, after you can go back into the classroom, my advice would be, if you don't go back online. If you can be under the 50% rule, that would be the best. Right now they're saying if your classes are suspended or canceled because of COVID, you can work part-time. This is still not counted as it's not counted as a scheduled break. They're looking at it more like a strike situation, so that you can't help it, but you still can only work part-time, okay? However, if you're working in an essential service, you can work full-time. If you're a full-time student and you're attending classes. So normally you can only work 20 hours off campus. Now you can work full-time if you are working in an essential service. Just wanted a quick note about immigration office closures. The online applications are still available, and most processing offices, they're working a little bit slower, but they're still operational. That means that you don't have any excuses to say, if you're in Canada and your status is about to expire, for you to say, oh, I can't file my application. You must file your application and be in status. Do not assume that immigration is very sympathetic, okay? They're not. If they have stated something in the rules, then we can follow their rules. But so far, they have not said anything about you not extending your status. And in fact, they're very clear that people who are in Canada must be in status, and you can file extensions online, okay? Be sure to do that before your status expires, okay? Other things, citizenship, a lot of the ceremonies and the tests and interviews, they're being canceled until further notice, but you can still file the applications. Overseas, a lot of visa application centers are closed. Sometimes they're reopening. So there might be some delays with regard to biometrics, getting your biometrics, medicals, and police certificates. And immigration understands that, and they are issuing extensions up to 90 days for those. So don't worry, even if you can't get your biometrics or your medicals or police certificates or submit your passport, don't worry. Send it in first so that you maintain your status or stand in line, keep your place in line. And then once you're able to do that, then you can get it and then send it to immigration. Overall, immigration is being more flexible with regard to documents. If they understand that sometimes you can't get certain documents, they're being more flexible with that. But you do have to provide explanations on why the delay is happening. Just wanted to run over a few things to keep in mind during the COVID times. first of all, like I said, don't assume immigration is going to be forgiving. Follow the stated rules, and you must keep yourself still in status, okay? You also have to keep in mind that a lot of applications may take a lot longer than normal, and you can't even apply at the border anymore. So when we're doing planning with our clients, we have to keep that in mind and look at ways in order for people to, you know, extend it in time or look at different routes to do it. Because a lot of times, if it takes 4 months, 5 months to get your work permit, and you can't work until you get your work permit, that could be an issue. There may be other ways that we can, you know, speed it up, but it's being more and more limited right now. A lot of students are asking me, oh, you know, will immigration take into account that I can't really find a job now and extend my postgrad work permit? And no, they will not. Okay, I will put money on it that they will not. Okay, because they're not that sympathetic. Their interests are with the Canadian. Their interests are with the Canadian voters who are going to vote them in, and their interest is not necessarily with the international students. So a lot of times with planning, if you don't think you can find a job that easily, and your postgrad work permit, if you only have one program, you only get a 1-year work permit afterwards, you may think about doing another program so that you can get a 3-year work permit afterwards. Similarly, with employers who are looking to hire the workers and keep them hired and keep them in status, we do have to look into strategies to get them permanent residents. Keep updated. The immigration policies are changing very, very frequently, sometimes almost on a daily basis, at least weekly. We are seeing new rules coming out, especially because of COVID. And my next slide, I have my contact information, and we have a COVID-19 updates page on our webpage as well, so that you can take a look at that. One last thing is, if your application is rejected, there are very strict time deadlines for going to court, or if you want to just have another reconsideration where we contact the senior officer, you only get one kick at the can. So contact a lawyer right away if this happens, because it can be a very urgent situation. Okay, and there's also timelines with regard to filing restoration of status. So make sure that you apply in time. Otherwise, you could be out of luck with regard to your status. So that's my information there. Like I said, our website on the COVID-19 updates is there. And yeah, that's it. Am I on time? Pretty much. 15 minutes?
Pretty much.
Awesome.
Well, I think, this is great about this time. There's a changing times, and there's so much confusion about traveling and quarantine and whatnot. I think your presentations have gave us a kind of a snapshot of what is current status. So thank you very much, Elizabeth. I'm going to kind of like everybody do this, right?
Virtual class. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Elizabeth, if you don't mind, I'm sharing your screen so I can continue to share my screen. Yeah. Okay. So thank you again. Everybody seeing my screen. My closing remarks is that this is our first one-stop classroom event. So we are still kind of searching what is the best way of doing it. We could change in the future, but we actually have planned and lined up a few presentation throughout the month of May, and we'll entertain some Q&A after this closing remarks. So let me share with you our schedule. So we got a very robust lineup from today until the end of the month, and is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 o'clock. We have this format, at least you feel free to join. The one that next Monday is AJ Rana. So AJ is from Mississauga. He talks about the 5 ways to prepare your business for the online operation during the COVID-19. So he is an IT person, and this is going to be very exciting. People are searching ways and different things of mindset, of changing the mindset and put things online, social media, online marketing, Zoom meeting like this, in education, in many other aspects of the business. So this is going to be very exciting. We will post it on Eventbrite, as well as your WeChat, our WhatsApp connection, so people can register before you join next Monday. We look forward to have you. So moving along, we have on the Wednesday, we have Antonio. He's another lawyer that associate with us. Talk about business operation. Antonio, you're on the line. So welcome for you to join and let's talk about business operation and workers hours and all these things in this kind of environment. So moving along, we have Max is going to talk about real estate economics. So invite your real estate agents and friends and so on and so forth. So we got a very exciting schedule.